Hello, this is Dave from Retire Time Productions, and this is part 2 of the Super Cub S conversion. And the new motor mount for the brushless motor has come in. So all I want to do is take this brushed motor off and put this on, and then try to fit a brushless motor on there. So let's see what we can do. So after crashing it in a tree and crashing it on the ground 4 or 5 times, you would think that by now this spinner would have broke off, and maybe the prop would have broke off, but I gotta hand it to Hobby Zone. This thing's strong and it still runs. So I don't know. I've been trying to get this spinner off and it just won't come off. Let's take a look at the manual here and just see what it says. Okay, so disassembly. Step 1 says remove the spinner A from the hex nut. Oh, wait a minute now. How? It just goes on and says, you know, remove the hex nut after that and the washer. It never says how to get the spinner off. Oh, why can't things be easy? Well, I've watched several videos on the internet, and since it's not in the manual, that's the route I went. And what they said to do was to fold these ears back like that, and they say they won't break, and then turn the prop or turn the spinner, either one, your choice, until it unscrews. And lo and behold, it does. So there's threads down in there. And then you can just fold these ears back, I guess. Yep, still good. Well, mystery solved. Now the rest ought to be easy, right? I can just take these nuts off the propeller, take the 3 screws off, and then just pull this off. Guess that's called the cowling, right? Also not included in the directions. Just hold the prop like this and give it a tap, and then it'll come off. And there it is. You can see where the hex nut was in this little cavity here. Now taking off the 3 screws. So I'll just do that off camera. Now let's see how the motor mount from Hobby Zone here compares to the original motor mount. Well, it looks like it might actually fit. The screws seem to be in about the same places. Yeah, I think maybe it is an exact match. And it came with a little bag of screws to screw it on with too. So as you can see, the motor mount is an exact fit and the holes match and everything. I'll have to put in some shorter screws that came with it right here, so I can use these shorter screws to mount it when I do. I think I want to get the motor on first. Now this motor here was recommended by Sailor John, and it's a 2200 kV from Hobby King. It's a Turnigy. But For Fun RC also mentioned that I could use the 2610 version of this that's got a little slower kV. I think it was a 1400 kV, and that might work even better, so I might have to order one of those. It'll look very similar. So here's the old brush motor, and you can see it just has 2 leads right here, and the new one is a brushless and it's got 3 leads. So I'll have to change the ESC. I'll probably use a 30 amp ESC, something like that. And these are the gears from the old brushed assembly right here. I'm really surprised I didn't strip out any of the teeth with all those crashes. So I've got to hand it to Hobby Zone. They make a really rugged product here. It can take a lot of abuse, but it just didn't have enough power when I added FPV gear to the plane. So that's why we're changing to the brushless motor. I think you'll notice if you were going to make your own motor mount that you might want to do what Hobby Zone did, and is they add a little bit of right hand thrust. See how that's on a slant? And also a little bit of down thrust. So it isn't just a flat 90-degree surface on the back there. It's actually got down and over. And that was the same on the original motor mount. It had the same sort of setup. So I think I'm going to go with the 282610. I've got that on order. And while I'm waiting, I know I'm going to need a bigger battery, so I'm going to have to go from a 1500 milliamp hour to a 2200 milliamp hour. And to get that in, and that's why the plane's upside down, I want to go through the battery tray right here so that the plane is able to carry the battery. So I'll have to cut a hole in the battery tray and then insert the battery kind of like this. I'll also have to move my flight controller. So I'm going to have to move the B-rotor flight controller this direction to empty some space right here where I can cut out a hole so the battery will go right through there and stick through the battery tray, kind of like that. So I cut the bottom of the box out with this Dremel tool here, and now the battery fits down in there. Of course it'll go from the other side, but yeah, the battery fits in the hole. I reinforced it with some carbon fiber. And now I'm going to mount my B-rotor platform right here, and I'm going to use some of these pegs here that I cut off the plastic that was in this hole right here. Just going to glue some pegs on to mount the B-rotor platform. Okay, so here is our pegs that I just glued on. I glued on one here, and one here, and these two are already there. And then I've got this little piece of plywood I'm going to screw down, and then put the B-rotor on top of that. So now the plate is mounted, time to mount the B-rotor. So here it is all put together and it's ready to go into the plane. You can see how the battery mounts in there. That's basically it. So here it is with the B-rotor back in there and the battery in its compartment. So I got the door closed there and the battery's there and the wing will still fit on top. So all's good. And the motor mount is screwed on right here. So the new 28610 motor came in, got that to put on the Super Cub, and the ESC, which is a 40 amp. It's actually for a multi-rotor, but I think it'll work. And I got some props right here. And these are sort of APC-like. They look like APCs, but they're not APCs. And they are 8x4s. And there's one pusher and one regular. So the motor mount went on easily, and I actually put the motor on the motor mount first and then screwed the motor mount on, and it fits perfectly. There's just the right distance for the cowling to go back on, and the spinner that came with the motor you can put on afterward and just tighten it using putting an Allen wrench through the hole on the end of it and just tightening it while holding the prop. So that went on really easy. I mounted the ESC on the outside here just to give it more cooling, and then ran the wires through. And I've got pins here that I can pull out, disconnect if I want to change it. So pretty easy there, and I put a JST plug here so it plugs onto the power module inside. And the power module is down in here beside the B-rotor. But that all supplies current. This ESC does not have a BEC, but I'm getting 5 volts from the power module, so I don't need a BEC. So that's pretty much it. Let's get the wing on it and check the CG. Well, I thought that putting the heavy battery up in the front here like that, moving it forward, would make it nose heavy, but lo and behold, it is not nose heavy. In fact, it needs to come down about to right there on the CG stand, so it's really tail heavy at this point. I think what's going on is the original motor mount and motor that was in here, the brushed motor, was actually a lot heavier than this brushless motor and its aluminum motor mount. So it looks like I need at least this much weight right here to balance it. That is quite a bit of weight. Let's see how much it is. 70 grams to the front of the nose. Got 71 grams right there. So I ended up putting a big nut behind the motor mount right here that came off this bolt right there. So I took the nut off that bolt, duct taped it, and stuck it behind the motor mount. So that's a start, but I still think it's going to need a little more weight. So I taped 2 nuts on the outside here to give it a little more weight, and now it seems to balance pretty good. And it looks like it's got a real gas-powered engine on it. Look like cylinders or something on there. But anyway, I got it balanced. I'm going to put the cowling back on. Well, I did get it all together and took it out and flew it. unfortunately, disaster struck again. The plane still had some bad tendencies, and it started out flat on the flight, but the flight was so short I don't have any flight video. It just basically went up and then started to roll, ended up going upside down, stalled, and crashed into the ground. And I don't know why. It's just something about it. I don't know. The CG seemed to be right, but I'm not sure. Could be the flight controller settings. We'll probably never know for sure. I may get back on it later, but I'm going to put it on hold for now because I bent the spinner, I bent the prop shaft, broke the tail off again. So I don't know. I think I'll put it on hold. Maybe I'm just having a trouble with the basic design of the plane and carrying all this the FPV equipment. It may be too much for, too much wing loading or something. But I'm going to put it on hold for now. We'll get back on that later. Right now I think I'm going to start building a Polaris seaplane for the float and fly. So that's coming up next. Talk to you later. Here, play.